Hi everyone, I'm Ghetsis, and today we're going to be playing through a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Black 2, only using Pokemon I could personally beat in a fight. There's some people out there that believe any Pokemon could beat any human, but we regularly see that isn't true, and even fully evolved Pokemon get put 6 feet under by people from time to time. But still, beating a lot of these Pokemon will require some delusion on my part, so we'll be naming everything we catch after characters from the show about utilizing the true strength of schizophrenia, Baki. But first, we need to actually get a Pokemon. Our starter choices are Tepig, who we would annihilate, but its evolution, Pignite, is a fire-breathing chonker that I'm not totally confident I could beat. Oshawott is also getting destroyed, but beating Dewott is closer to a 50-50 in my opinion. Finally, there's Snivy, another easy victory, but what about its evolution? Well, the Pokédex says Servine likes to whip their foes, and unfortunately for them, I'm into that. I have a very high pain tolerance. I should have no trouble powering through and acquainting their face with my fist. This is a nearly guaranteed win, so we'll be taking Snivy and naming them Baki. Baki's first battle with our rival gets off to a rough start as they are immediately hit by a crit and loses over half their HP. Luckily, our rival was dropped as a child and uses Growl to drop our attack despite having Baki dead to rights, letting us win the fight. We then head on to Route 19, where we sit through the catching tutorial, and I have to say, there is nothing on this route that I don't absolutely eviscerate in a mono rumble, but that's not to say we'll be able to evolve all of them. I doubt I'm beating Liepard, and I'm definitely not beating Stoutland. Watchog, on the other hand, would just be another victim of mine, and luckily enough, we catch its previous form, Doyle the Patrat. On Route 20, we find Retsu the Sewaddle, who we can't fully evolve because I'm not about to fight something with scythes for hands, and in the Flockacy Ranch, we catch Motobe the Lillipup. We have a second rival battle while we're here, which goes about the same as the first. Then some couple asks us to find their Herdier. We find them getting pressed by a Team Plasma Grunt with no Pokemon, further evidence that a regular-ass human could beat some Pokemon in a fight, and after clearing out a few more battles, it's time to take on the first gym leader, Cheren. Cheren starts with his Patrat, while we start with Motobe. We move first and use Leer to drop their defense, and they then land a critical hit tackle to wipe out 2/3 of our HP right off the bat. We do have the Oran Berry to heal us up a bit, and we then land a critical hit tackle of our own for the one-hit KO. His own Lillipup comes in next, and honestly, Motobe is probably gonna die here, but that's okay. The rest of the Pokemon we have will probably be more useful down the line. We use Leer to drop their defense as they use Work Up to boost their offensive stats, and we get off one more Leer, having their defense before Motobe is hit by a tackle that kills them. We bring in Doyle next, who is outsped and loses a lot of HP to tackle, activating their Oran Berry before we just miss the KO with the tackle of our own. Cheren tries to heal with a potion, but it doesn't fully restore their HP, and a second tackle from Doyle takes Lillipup out to win us the fight. We move on to Burbank City next, where we can head south to the complex, where we can run back and forth until some grass starts shaking, indicating that an Audino is there. We'll be going for Audino because most of the other Pokemon in this area are not something I'm entirely sure I can handle. Magby, I'm destroying, but we wouldn't be able to evolve them. Magnemite is iffy, and my lungs aren't the best, so I can't hold my breath long enough to beat the toxic fart cloud coughing before breathing in something that will inevitably kill me. Audino, on the other hand, walking punching bag. So we catch the one we find and name them Kozue, evolve Baki into a Servine, run in circles for a hot minute to max out our friendship, and then take on the second gym leader, Roxie. Roxie starts at the Coffin, and we'll actually be starting with Baki. There are only Pokemon with access to a specially offensive move, and Coughing's special defense is significantly lower than their physical defense. We do get lucky and score a crit with our Leaf Tornado right off the bat, and Coughing proceeds to use Smog, a very weak poison move, which misses. We use a return to finish them off, and Roxie's ace Pokemon, Whirlipede, is in. We use Leer to drop their defense before it hits us with a weak Pursuit, and they then use Protect, blocking our next Leer, and tries to Protect again, but fails, allowing a second Leer to land. We land a third before they hit us with a Venoshock to bring us below half HP, so it's time to swap out. We bring in Kozue as Whirlipede protects again, and we can then outspeed them and take them out with a single return to win us the fight. We trudge through the hell on earth called Pokestar Studios, and have our first real scuffle with Team Plasma, which we easily win. This lets us take the boat to Castelia City, where we hop into the sewers and team up with our rival to hunt down more Team Plasma. On the way there, we encounter two Rattatas, which we will easily be able to obliterate in a fight. Our rival's Pignite takes out the first, and the second then lands a critical hit Hyper Fang on Doyle to instantly kill them. Well, we just lost our normal type rodent, so we throw a Great Ball at the normal type rodent in front of us, hoping to catch this one before our rival can kill it, and it stays in the ball. We'll name them Dorian. Right after that, we tussle with Team Plasma, which gives us access to the Relic Passage where we catch Gaia the Roggenrola. And we can then head up to the Castelia Park where we pick up the Miracle Seed, perfect for Baki, Retsu, and Maria the Cottony, who we catch up here. On the way back through the sewers, we pick up the leftovers, evolve Retsu into a Swadloon, and Dorian into Eradicate, whose face is at perfect punting height, and we arrive at the third gym. The bug trainer Burgh starts with the Swadloon, while we start with Dorian, who we just spam strength with, quickly netting us a KO. Dwebble is in next, so we swap to Gaia, who beats them with a couple smackdowns, and Burgh's ace Pokemon, Liavani, comes in. Despite us not being able to evolve Gaia, since I very much doubt I can beat the rock monster Boldore, we actually still have use of them, so we swap them out for Retsu on a Razor Leaf. They then have to survive a Struggle Bug, eating their Oranberry before using Bug Bite to deal solid damage to Liavani, and stealing their Citrus Berry, nearly fully healing us. Our Bug Bite does significantly more damage than their Struggle Bug, and we quickly win the fight. But before we can leave the city, we have to meet with Colress, who challenges us to a fight in turn. He starts with the Magnemite, and we'll be bringing in Gaia, who takes solid damage from a Magnet Bomb before landing a Mud Slap. Despite being ×4 super effective, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage due to it only having a whopping 20 power and using Gaia's worst offensive stat. But it does lower Magnemite's accuracy, letting us dodge a Thunder Wave before landing another Mud Slap. Just when it looks like Gaia is about to win, Colress uses a Super Potion to heal, and we bring them low again, but won't survive another attack, so we swap to Baki to finish off Magnemite with a Mega Drain. Clink comes in, and we hit them with a Leech Seed, then begin spamming out some Mega Drains. We're kept relatively healthy, but when we get brought to half HP, I decide to play it safe and swap to Retsu, who can finish them with a Bug Bite to win the fight. Winning here lets us explore the rest of Route 4, where we find Jack the Sandile, who I will not be evolving because I don't think I can beat a Krokorok. Sure, people can beat Gators by sitting on their backs and holding their mouth shut, but Krokorok does not share such vulnerabilities. Those spikes and claws will make it dangerous to pin down, so I'm going to say I lose more often than not. And we have the same issue with our next encounter, Junior the Sandshrew at the Desert Resort. We can't evolve them because there is no safe way to approach a Sandslash, and I will almost certainly be torn to shreds. So instead of evolving new Pokemon, let's look at the ones we already have. We just entered Nimbasa City where we can find a Sunstone, which we can use to evolve Maria the Cottony. But first, we have to find the stone. I begin to talk to everyone, including the Metal Man, who proceeds to give us a couple dozen medals before we begin going door to door, and we eventually find it, and use it to evolve Maria into a Whimsicott. I would grab this thing by its hair and start swinging it around like a sock full of batteries to beat the daylights out of our next encounter. On Route 5, Bianca shows us to a hidden grotto where we find a defenseless Minccino who we catch and name Oliva. Route 16 is our next stop, where we catch Diane the Gothita, who is basically just a very small person, and in the Losthorn Forest we catch a Venipede, who we can't evolve because I would be terrified to go anywhere near a Whirlipede. With so many new Pokemon encountered, we quickly run back to Castelia City to get the Eviolite, which will help out our Pokemon who can't evolve, and then we take on the 4th gym leader, Elesa. We start with Gaia against her Emolga, and it immediately uses Volt Switch for massive damage and swaps out to Flaffy, who proceeds to get destroyed by a critical hit Rock Slide. So Emolga comes back in, and Volt Switch is fatal this time, killing Gaia, and letting her bring out her ace Pokemon, Zebstrika. Junior comes in, handling a pursuit well before landing a one-hit KO Dig, and her Emolga comes back in for the final time. They begin to use Pursuit, but we have no intention of swapping out and use Slash. Emolga's static ability paralyzes us on contact, and we now have some intention of swapping out. We land a few more slashes, forcing Elesa to heal, and we swap out for Jack, who gets the win with a couple crunches. Leaving the city, we get into a brief scuffle with Team Plasma, and have to take a biker on in a rotation battle. The problem we face in these battles is that the enemy's attack choices are completely random. They are just as likely to use a fighting type move into a ghost type as they are to use a dark type move, so we can't play around predictions, but luckily Jack doesn't need that, and just needs a few crunches to beat them. We hop on the bridge to the next city, and begin running around looking for these shadows. Sometimes they give us items, but other times they give us our next encounter, Pickle the Ducklet. Another Pokemon will thankfully be able to evolve, since Swana's long-ass neck makes for a very easy to hit weak spot. Once we're across the bridge, we watch our rival physically assault a Team Plasma member, then meet up with a bunch of ex-Plasma members, who try to give us a Zorua, who we won't be accepting. Now, I could absolutely destroy a Zorua in a fight, but I would have to get my hands on it first, and I don't see that happening before I get bored and go home. But north of the city, there is a Pokemon we can catch, a Tranquil named Sikorsky, and I'm honestly on the fence about evolving it, but there's no doubt in my mind that I'm at least beating Tranquil more often than not. Moving on, our next challenge is to overcome the 5th gym leader, Clay, who starts with an Intimidate Krokorok against Retsu. They hit us with the Torment, stopping us from using the same move twice in a row, which is fine by me because we then land a critical hit Razor Leaf for the one-hit KO, and Excadrill comes in after, taking out over half of our HP with a Rock Slide before we use Bug Bite, stealing their Citrus Berry and healing us. Excadrill brings us back below half HP with a Slash, and we go for a String Shot which misses, and Retsu then gets killed by a Rock Slide on the next turn. We send Jack in next, dropping their attack with Intimidate before getting hit by a Slash and then using Dig. We just miss the KO, and Clay heals, so we go for a Mud Slap, dealing little damage but dropping their accuracy. This causes their next Bulldoze to miss, and we're then able to land a second Dig for the KO. All Clay has left is his Sand Slash, who we're able to hit with a Mud Slap before they take out Jack with the Bulldoze. Maria is brought out, and a Giga Drain is barely not enough to kill, but Sandslash misses their Bulldoze, so we can just land a second Giga Drain to get the KO and the win. Right after the fight, we evolve Diane into a Gothorita, a slightly bigger small person that is still getting destroyed by me, and we'll use them to enter the PWT. We go to register our team, and I immediately realize we didn't have an answer to Colress's steel types. It'll probably be fine. It was fine. We tango with Team Plasma once more before leaving the city, and heading north where we get the Shiny Stone, which will let us evolve Oliva into a Chinchino. We then head into the Charged Stone Cave, where we find Tokugawa the Joltik, and I used to think this thing was like as big as a person's head, but in reality it would fit in the palm of your hand, making it an easy kill. I do know better than to mess with its evolution though. Speaking of evolutions, we evolve Pickle into a Swanna before exiting the cave and meeting Professor Juniper, who gives us the Master Ball. We then head up to Route 7, where we are really struggling to find anything I can beat. I don't stand a chance against Zebstrika, Seviper is a no-go, and Zangoose will tear me to shreds. However, we do eventually find Yujiro the Emolga. We arrive at the Celestial Tower, where we climb floors to get some powerful TMs, and pick up Musashi the Litwick on the way there. Returning back to Mistralton, it's time to take on the 6th gym leader, Skyla. She starts with her Swoobat against Yujiro, who is immediately hit by an Attract and refuses to do anything for 4 turns straight, and after our static ability paralyzes them, we decide to switch out. We bring in Dorian on an Assurance that doesn't do too much damage, and we hit them hard with a Crunch. Swoobat then uses Acrobatics for significantly more damage before a second Crunch takes them out, and Skyla's ace, Swanna, comes in. We move first and use Super Fang to cut their HP in half, activating their Citrus Berry before they kill Dorian with an Air Slash, and Tokugawa comes in. Swanna hits us with a Feather Dance, entirely pointless, as we then hit them with a Volt Switch for the KO and a free swap back to Yujiro as her final Pokemon, Skarmory, comes in. Yujiro hits a Volt Switch for big damage, and we swap back to Tokugawa as Skarmory uses Agility. Skyla heals with a Hyper Potion before being hit by an Electro Web, which we then begin to spam out to drop their speed until we're faster, and one more Electro Web takes them out to win us the fight. With this win, we can then take a plane to the other side of the map, landing at Lentimas Town, connecting to Reversal Mountain. Surely, we can find some good Pokemon here, right? Well, pigs are terrifying, so I don't want to mess with Grumpig. I'm definitely not going to take on the giant metal bird, and even Skorupi I'm not confident I can beat. Trapinch, however? Yeah, I can beat them. Vibrava too, but definitely not Flygon. Well, this Trapinch has the Arena Trap ability, and I really don't want to lose Oliva, so we'll just use the Master Ball to catch Katsumi here. We head into the mountain proper and team up with Bianca to make it through, evolving Baki into a Serperior along the way. Now, why do I think I could be a Serperior in a fight? Well, from all the surface level research I've done on snakes, I can say with a moderate degree of confidence that Serperior is morbidly obese for a snake its size. It will struggle to move, and I will not struggle to beat its noggin in with a rock. Moving on, we also evolve Diane into a Gothitelle, and Gothitelle isn't even 5 feet tall. I can absolutely take them. They are basically a very short person cosplaying as a Pokemon, and their ribcage is about to get acquainted with my foot. Also, it has these stubby-ass legs under its dress that probably only move it a few inches per step, so if things start to go south, I can just walk away at a leisurely pace before coming back with a new plan of attack. We arrive at Undella Town, pick up Kaku the Buizel just south of the city, then have a quick rival battle. His Unpheasant gets one shot by Yujiro's Volt Switch, letting us swap to Pickle, and our rival sends in his Emboar. Surf just misses the KO, and they hit us with a takedown for big damage, and surviving recoil off of seemingly 1 HP. They heal, but that just gives us time to land back-to-back Surfs for the KO, and his final Pokemon, Simipour, comes in. We swap out to Baki on a Scald, not doing too much damage, and we outspeed them to land a Leaf Blade, just missing the KO. Simipour lands another Scald. This one is not only a critical hit, but it also burns us. Not that it matters since we outspeed them and a second Leaf Blade KOs them anyways. Winning here lets us set up to Route 13, where we catch Spec the Tangela, who won't be evolving, and we arrive at Lacunosa Town to receive a lore dump before we team up with our rival to fight Team Plasma's Zinzalin and a random Grunt. Luckily, they are more concerned with our rival's Ember, so Oliva can safely take out their entire team, ending the fight by using their guaranteed 5-hit Tail Slap to abuse this Garbiter's weak armor ability, dropping their defense after each hit. We head west to Route 12 where we catch George Bush the Combi, evolve Katsumi into a Vibrava, get jumped on Route 11 by a legendary Pokemon who I know would eviscerate me in a fight, so we'll settle for catching Hanayama the Marill at the village bridge, and in preparation for the next gym, we evolve Kaku into a Floatzel, then decide to not use them. Getting into that fight with the next gym leader, Drayden, he starts with a Druddigon, while we start with Katsumi, whose Dragon Breath barely does anything, and they then get destroyed by a single Dragon Tail. Amazing showing by Katsumi. So Oliva comes in and uses Tail Slap and doesn't get the KO. They're hit by a Revenge, but survives off 3 HP. Drayden heals, but Druddigon still goes down before it can move again. Flygon is in next, so we swap out for Maria on a Crunch. We use Giga Drain for solid damage before they use Earth Power, dropping our special defense, but a few Giga Drains later and Flygon goes down, and Haxorus is in. Haxorus has a massive attack stat, but we should survive at least one attack. We have Maria use Leech Seed, then they get hit by a critical hit Dragon Tail and die. Well, that sucks pretty badly, but now Musashi comes in, surviving an Assurance, then burning Haxorus with a Will-O-Wisp. The attack drop that comes with the burn allows them to survive a second Assurance before we use Curse. Cursing Haxorus kills Musashi, but causes them to lose a quarter of their HP every turn, and with so many sources of damage over time, Pickle just needs to sit back and relax as Haxorus succumbs to all that damage, netting us another win. Shortly after the battle, a terrorist attack is launched on the city, so we have to fight off Team Plasma, evolving Hanayama into an Azumarill, and ending in a fight with Zinzalin, where Oliva brutally slaps his entire team to death, and Drayden then loses the MacGuffin Triangle, something necessary to Team Plasma's evil plan. So we have to stop them by going through the Marine Tube and completely ignoring them while we take on the final gym leader. Marlon starts with the Caracosta, while we start with Yujiro, who immediately uses Volt Switch to break Caracosta's sturdy ability and let us bring out Spec on a Smackdown. Marlon heals, but can't move again before Spec takes them out with a Giga Drain, and Wailord is in. They move first and use Amnesia to double their special defense, so our Giga Drain takes out less than half their HP, and Wailord then uses Bounce. We swap to Yujiro, who takes little damage from it, then uses Discharge to just miss the KO and gets brought low by a Scald. We then use Volt Switch to take out Wailord, and we swap back to Spec as Marlon's ace Pokemon Jellicent comes in. They hit us with an Ominous Wind for decent damage while we use Knockoff to remove their Citrus Berry, survive a second, and use Giga Drain, restoring a lot of our HP. This should let us survive a third and take out Jellicent with another Giga Drain. Unless they get a crit with Ominous Wind and kill us back. No matter, we had no use for them after this fight. We just bring in Baki to finish the job with a Leaf Blade, and that is the final badge in the bag. We head north to Route 22, where we find this giant dog with a disturbingly human face. No shot we're winning a fight with that, but Colress shows up and gives us a machine to help us reach Team Plasma's ship. Before heading over there, we catch Sonoda the Amoonguss, and we use the machine in the seaside cave to awaken a Crustle, and I gotta say, I am quite confident that the crab carrying a massive slab of earth on its back is gonna wipe the floor with me, so we can't catch them. But what we can catch here is Gavera the seal. I just need to sit there and wait for it to scoot itself onto land, and then it'll be an easy win for me. Same deal with its evolution. We storm the plasma ship, beat the snot out of this old man for the third time in the past 30 minutes, then watch as the ship flies away. Before heading off for the final Team Plasma confrontation, we need to be very prepared for a couple tough battles. Unfortunately, Baki can't learn Dig, probably because he's too obese to fit in whatever hole he digs, and this will make the fight with Colress much harder. Besides the Ice Beam TM, we really aren't finding anything in the Giant Chasm that can make this easier for us, so we'll just have to go in and hope our limited options for answers against his steel types will be enough. We hop on the boat, take 2 seconds out of our day to annihilate the elderly for the 4th time, then get into that Colress fight. Colress starts with a Magneton against Junior, and they move first and use Flash Cannon, which we barely survive and use a critical hit Bulldoze, which Magneton only survives thanks to their sturdy ability, but at least it also drops their speed. Colress heals, allowing us to land another Bulldoze, and their speed is now low enough for us to move first, securing the KO with a 3rd Bulldoze before Magnezone comes in and kills Junior with a Flash Cannon. We bring Yujiro in and use Volt Switch to break Magneton's sturdy, while swapping to Kozue, who loses a decent chunk of HP to the incoming Flash Cannon. But now they can use Dig, leaving them with seemingly 1 HP as we get paralyzed by a Thunder Wave. It's as if we never broke sturdy. Kozue barely survives another Flash Cannon, then powers through Paralysis to land a Surf for the KO, and Colress then brings out his ace Pokemon and biggest threat, Klinklang. We swap to Yujiro, who avoids the incoming Gear Grind, and then uses Discharge for decent damage, popping the air balloon they're holding before Klinklang uses Shift Gear, doubling their speed and raising their attack, allowing them to move first and land a 1-hit KO Giga Impact against Yujiro. We bring Oliva in next and begin using Charm to cut Klinklang's attack, since I'm very doubtful we'll take them out in the 1 turn they can't move. We keep using Charm until their attack stat is completely cooked, and we survive a Giga Impact with a good bit of HP before landing a Wake Up Slap for the KO. His Matang is in next and handles a Wake Up Slap well, but makes the mistake of using Agility to double their speed. We're still faster and use Encore, forcing them to use Agility over and over and over again. We swap to Diane, and after landing a Shadow Ball, the Encore wears off, so Matang starts throwing out some Meteor Mashes our way, but Diane comes out on top. All Colress has left is his BEM, and we swap to Oliva, who encores them into using Calm Mind over and over again, while we finish them off with a couple Tail Slaps to win this fight. After that, we have to run all the way back to Humalao City to swap out our team members before coming back, evolving Gavera into a Dugong on the way, and we meet the big bad of this game, Ghetsis. He tries to get Kyurem to fight us, but Sonoda hits them with a Toxic Leech Seed combo and stalls them out, prompting Ghetsis to challenge us himself. He starts with a Cofagrigus, who also gets hit by the Toxic Leech Seed combo, forcing Ghetsis to use his heals early, and after we get our special defense dropped by a psychic, we have to swap out to Kozue briefly to reset the stat drop. A couple turns later, and Cafagus goes down, and Electros comes in. We swap to Oliva on an acrobatics, then outspeed them, using a normal gem boosted tail slap for a 5-hit KO. Seismitoad is up next, so we swap to Baki on an earthquake, not damaging us much, and it's all restored by a 1-hit KO Giga Drain. Drapion comes in next, and we use Coil to boost our attack and defense while they hit us with X-Scissors. We then begin landing returns, and barely come out on top, taking out Drapion. Toxicroak is in next, so we swap to Diane on a Poison Jab, and they then have to survive a Sucker Punch before using Psychic to KO them. All Ghetsis has left is his Hydreigon, and we swap to Kozue on a Dragon Rush, taking big damage and hopefully lowering the odds of them using Rock Slide. We then swap to Gavera, who avoids an incoming Dragon Rush, but we're outsped on the next turn and hit hard by a Rock Slide, but we can retaliate with an Ice Beam for massive damage, and unless they miss, we are guaranteed to go down before we can move. So we use the priority attack Aqua Jet, which doesn't do enough damage to KO, and Guevara dies to a crunch. But now Oliva can come in and finish the job with a wake-up slap to win the fight. With Team Plasma beaten, all that's left is for us to beat the Pokemon League. While leaving the giant chasm, we come across Kureha the Clefairy, then make our way down Route 23 to reach Victory Road, where we catch our final Pokemon of the run, Shibukawa the Altaria. Altaria has the same issue as Swanna, that being they have extremely ringable necks. But if you think I couldn't beat a dragon in a fight, that's fine, we never actually use them. At the end of Victory Road is our final rival battle, where he starts with Unpheasant against Pickle, and we move first and land an Ice Beam for solid damage before they hit us with a Facade. One more Ice Beam takes out Unpheasant, and his Bouffalant comes in. We swap to Sonoda on a Wild Charge, which barely hurts, but their follow-up Head Charge does hurt quite a bit more. But at least we can get a Toxic off before having to swap Sonoda out for Baki, who doesn't handle a Head Charge too much better. I doubt we can get a KO from this damage range, so we'll have to make a sacrifice or a very risky play, and I decide to sacrifice. We send Sonoda back in and wave goodbye as this massive buffalo turns them into a red mist. Oliva comes in, and just before Bouffalant can die, our rival uses a max potion. Pointless since Bouffalant can't move again before going down to our wake-up slap. Then Simipour is brought out. We swap to Baki, who survives a Brick Break before landing a 1-hit KO Giga Drain, and all our rival has left is his Emboar. We bring in Hanayama, who survives a Flamethrower and Brick Break before dealing huge damage with Waterfall, but dies to a second Brick Break. But now Pickle can come back in to finish them with a Surf to win the fight, and the only thing left to do before the Elite Four is to make final preparations. We hit up the Move Relearner, run around in a cave to get shards to visit some move tutors alongside type boosting gems, evolve Kureha into a Clefable, EV train our Pokemon, and it's time to go in with a team of Diane the Gothitelle, Kaku the Floatzel, Baki the Superior, Kureha the Clefable, Pickle the Swanna, and Oliva the Chinchino. So let's get into it. Starting with the Ghost Trainer Chantal. She starts with a Cafagus against our Diane, who uses a Ghost Gem boosted Shadow Ball to score a 1-hit KO before Drifblim comes in. We swap to Kureha and begin to spam out Cosmic Powers to max out our defenses while using Moonlight to keep us healthy. Once we're all set up, we just blow through the rest of our team with Ice Beams and stored powers to win us the fight. Next up is Marshall, who we usually save for last. He starts with a Throw, and we start with Pickle, who lands a Flying Gem boosted Air Slash for massive damage before we lose half of our HP and some of our speed to a Rock Tomb. They use a full restore, but can't move again before going down, and Conkeldurr comes in. We use Feather Dance to drop their attack, and they miss a Stone Miss. This lets us land a second Feather Dance, which allows us to survive a stone hit, and we then swap to Baki, who barely loses any HP from the incoming stone hit. We begin setting up coils to boost our attack and defense, and we'll be able to sweep Marshall's entire team. But then he lands a critical hit Hammer Arm, killing Baki and messing with our plan. Instead, we do what we should have done at the start and send in Diane, who one-shots Conkeldurr and Mian Xiao with a single Psychic each. Sok only survives thanks to their Sturdy ability, but we can then swap to Kaku to finish them with a low kick to win the fight. Third is the Psychic Trainer Caitlyn, who starts with a Musharna against Oliva, who uses a normal gem boosted Tail Slap to get an easy KO. Rhianoclus comes in, and we swap to Diane on a Focus Miss before using a Ghost Gem boosted Shadow Ball for big damage. You get hit by an Energy Ball, but it doesn't do much and a second Shadow Ball KOs. We trade Shadow Balls with Sigilif, who comes in next, and there is no guarantee we'll survive another, so we swap to Kaku, who gets the KO with the Crunch, and Caitlyn's own Gothitelle comes in, but Kaku's Crunch is a critical hit and ends up being a one-hit kill, winning the fight. The last Elite Four member we're up against is the Dark Trainer Grimsley. He starts with a Liepard against Kaku, and hits us with a Fake Out to flinch us. We then hit Liepard with a low kick, just missing the KO, before they hit us with an Attract, but Kaku's love language is violence. Grimsley heals, but Kaku lands 2 low kicks in a row to take out Liepard, and Crocodile comes in. Their Intimidate drops our attack, letting them survive a waterfall before landing a strong Earthquake. We bring Pickle in, expecting to avoid an Earthquake, but lose half our HP to a Crunch, and we then move first on the next turn to use Surf, unfortunately burning our Water Gem early and taking out Crocodile. Scrafty is in next, and we go for an Air Slash, but Scrafty survives and takes out Pickle with a Crunch. Their Moxie ability boosts their attack, but they'll never get to put it to use since Oliva comes in and takes them out with a Wake Up Slap, alongside Grimsley's final Pokemon, Bisharp, winning us the fight. Finally, we're up against the champion, Iris, with only 4 Pokemon left, but I'm confident we'll win. Iris starts with a Hydreigon, and we bring out Kaku, using Ice Punch to take out half their HP before losing quite a bit of their own HP to a Dragon Pulse. We land a second Ice Punch, and Hydreigon seemingly survives off of 1 HP, killing Kaku with a second Dragon Pulse. Oliva comes in, and Iris heals her Hydreigon, allowing it to survive a Wake Up Slap with over half its HP remaining. I am no longer confident we'll win. I was hoping to save our normal gem for her Haxorus, but if we want Oliva to get through her Hydreigon unharmed, we'll have to use it now. Tail Slap takes out Hydreigon, and her Druddigon is up next. So we switch to Diane on a focus hit that doesn't do too much damage, and we take them out with 2 Psychics, and her Haxorus comes in early. They use X-Scissor, which we barely survive, allowing us to use Psychic to break their Focus Sash. Diane dies to a Dual Chop on the next turn, but then Oliva can come in and take out Haxorus with a Tail Slap. Aggron comes in next, and suddenly I'm feeling very confident in our victory. We're about to get in the buns, because we're about to finish this run like a massive weenie. Oliva hits Aggron with 3 charms to minimize their attack, then we swap to Correja, who sets up 6 Cosmic Powers, turning their stored power into a move with, assuming I can still do basic math, 260 power. This lets us take out Aggron. Lapras barely survives, so we finish them with an Ice Beam, and all Iris has left is an Archaeops, but they go down to a couple ice beams, winning us the fight and the run. Well, ending with 2 Pokemon remaining was cutting it pretty close. Let me know what Pokemon you think you could beat in a fight. I've been Hextasy, and thanks for watching.